Hey everybody, it's HotDogBagLady here. As you may know, Amazon's very own MMO, New World Eternum, released its newest expansion, Nighthaven, 2 weeks ago today. I wanted to give everyone a quick rundown of my thoughts about the expansion, as I have put many hours into the game for the past 2 weeks. Most of which I stream live at twitch.tv/HotDogBagLady. So if you're interested in the New World's expansion, Nighthaven, hop on over to my Twitch channel, drop a follow, and turn your notifications on, and come chat with me the next time I'm live. I would love to hear your thoughts about the expansion or to answer any questions you might have. I'm going to be quickly going over some new features this expansion brings, as well as a deeper look into some of the system changes that make this expansion so exciting to new and returning players alike. And of course, give you my thoughts and opinions on them. But before I begin, I want to give a little disclaimer. Overall, I believe this expansion is a big thumbs up. I truly do believe this expansion was a big step in the right direction for this game's future. But that being said, you are going to hear me criticize many aspects of this game over the course of this video. This is not because I think it's bad, but because I want to be honest about the experience you will most likely get if you came back to playing New World for the first time in a while, or if you're a brand new player logging in for the first time. I also want to give constructive criticism that may reach the devs' ears and whatnot about how us players really feel about the new stuff they have given us to do, the new gear and the systems around it, etc., etc. The reality is that there are two main issues you will possibly deal with if you try to boot up this game and start playing like right after this video, and I really do want you guys to be aware about these things. Problem number one is the queue times. Especially where I am, US West, we have one server, El Dorado. They recently had merged servers, the two US West servers that were left together several months, I think like 2 months, my friends were saying, before the expansion release, which was a questionable decision. We are now dealing with really bad and really long queues. Weekdays, it starts anywhere as early as 3 or 4 p.m., and on weekends, it can start at noon, if not noon to 1 p.m., probably around that time. I have heard of the queue recently being as long as 3,000 players, if not more. And if I'm not mistaken, that's about how many players can be on the server at a given time. So there are literally as many people in the server playing the game as there are waiting to get into the game. The disparity between the people who want to play and the people who can play it's just a really bad balance right now. And it's a wonder why Amazon hasn't released new servers in these regions that are heavily impacted by that. On release day, they did release 2 new servers. I believe one of them was to US East. I'm not sure where the other one was, but it wasn't US West. So over here at El Dorado, we've been struggling with queue times. And it's just kind of we're all just kind of wondering why they haven't released a new server yet. We all know that the queue times will go down as people log in less and less, and as, the initial hype kind of simmers down until it's eventually gone. The problem I'm having is, Amazon, how many players are you turning off to this game because they have to wait an hour and a half just to get in? It doesn't seem like a wise move on their part at all. Just release a new server and do what you always do and merge them together later. Let people into the game and let people play. The number 2 problem you're probably going to run into, especially if you're on console, crashing. A lot of console players in my company don't really even get to play the game. They, get home from work, turn on their Xbox or PS5, sit in an hour and a half queue to get into the game, play for anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour, and with no rhyme or reason, they crash. And they're out. And if they want to play again, they have to sit through a queue of similar time. So hour and a half of queue times, play for 15 minutes, crash. Hour and a half of queue times, play for 30 minutes, crash. It's cruel. It's cruel and unusual punishment. We're making a joke that Amazon isn't fixing the console crashing issues because they need to keep the queue moving. No one wants to stop playing, so the queue will never move forward if console players aren't crashing. Of course, we don't believe this is the case. It's just a wonder why 2 weeks into the expansion, nothing has seemingly been done about it, because it's not getting any better. And console players are getting very frustrated, which is unfortunate because we need our console players. They are a good amount of the players on our servers. We need these people to want to log in and want to play, and they're getting really frustrated. So right off the bat, I want to be upfront with you about these two problems, because a lot of the criticisms I'll give in this video are like my personal opinion, how I feel about it, how my company members feel about it, how people I've talked to feel about it. And it's not necessarily a right or a wrong, but this is how we approach these situations. This is how we're thinking about them. The queue times and the crashing, on the other hand, are just bad. I can't say anything positive. It doesn't make any sense. The best thing I can say about the queue times are at least people want to play the game, so it must be good, right? But it's kind of unacceptable after 2 weeks to just make your players deal with this every day. And I want to be upfront with you guys about it, because if you watch this video and I didn't warn you about this and you hopped in, you would, especially if you're on console, you're going to run into these problems. So now that I've got those two things out of the way, I want to get to the content of the expansion of Nighthaven and go over the systems and new things to give you a deeper look onto why this is such an exciting big step in the right direction, knowing full well that we've just been having these problems. So really quickly, let's just go over kind of what they added this expansion. The first most obvious things you might notice is Nighthaven, the actual territory. It's quite large, probably a little bit larger than Brimstone Sands in total area, but don't quote me on that. I'm not quite sure. It is attached to Brimstone Sands from the north. When you first arrive there from a quest you'll get near the Hive of Gorgon raid down here in Cutlass Keys, will send you to this shore right here, Pinnacle Rock, and you'll make your way up and through Nighthaven as you quest through it. Now, I won't lie to you, the main story quest is mostly running and talking. There's really not much to it. I was a little disappointed in that, but, you know, on launch day, we were all trying to get to 70 and explore the new content more than we were trying to listen to the story. So, for all I know, the story might be really good, but the actual act of questing was just kind of run simulator. It was quite quick. It did feature some what we call soul trials in this game, which is like a one-on-one boss battle, if you will. The final one taking place right here, Bell Tower of Time, that many people have struggled with. And there's a reason many people struggle with it. It's because we kind of experienced a stat squish this expansion, and I will definitely get to talking about that later in the video. But for now, if we're talking about Nighthaven and what it has to offer, we can go over some of the cool things you can see here. The general vibe of it is very vampire castle kind of theme. It was supposed to be kind of a vampire and werewolves overall theme, although I feel like it's mostly just vampires and large castles more than anything, if I'm being honest. Most of the content you'll do in Nighthaven, though, involves, you know, if you're not talking about faction quests or side questing, is generally going to involve ECRs, or elite chest runs, which some old players might be a little disappointed to hear, but there is a new exciting ECR found in this giant castle you saw at the beginning of this video that I was standing in front of. Not the one I was just standing in front of, but it involves running through this elite zone here, which is Archivam Passage, up into the library. So pretty cool, neat run, very thematic, very cool, like the look of it and whatnot. You get some pretty good stuff from those chests, although the gear score is kind of low around this area, but I might bring that up later. I think it's a bug, personally. But let's talk about some of the other fun things you can do while in Nighthaven. So one of the common things you will spend time doing, especially when you first get here, are ascending these towers and collecting Arcana cards. Now, these Arcana cards are very similar to the glyphs found in Brimstone Sands, if you're familiar. You need these cards to be able to open up various elite chests throughout Nighthaven. The towers are all quite similar in nature. It does get a little repetitive, but the rewards at the top are usually worth it, and there's usually an old rehashed boss at the top in a ethereal form, because they call it like Memory of Isabella, and then like Isabella's at the top. You beat her, she can drop a loot bag, and then you get some chests because you got a new Arcana card. The one in particular I'm saying in front of is the Tower of Strength, which is probably the most different of all of the towers. Is actually like a mechanic where you have to carry up a ball and avoid spikes in order to open doors and whatnot. But most of them, you just run up them, ignore whatever ads you want to ignore, and get the card at the top. The Arcana cards can be found in your journal. I get there by pressing J, going to Documents, going all the way to the bottom, Tales of Nighthaven, and the Arcana cards, or Arcana cards, however you want to say it. There are 24 to collect in total. The 2 I have not collected I haven't collected them for a good reason. One of them is randomly found in the new game mode called the Catacombs, and I have gotten very unlucky with that, even though I've played a lot of Catacombs. And the last one is found at the very end of the raid, and I have, unfortunately, not been a part of a consistent raid group, so I haven't completed the raid as of yet. I'm not happy about that. HotDogBagLady is all about the raid, and I'm very excited that I finally may have found a group to consistently do runs with so that eventually I will beat it and find this last Arcana card. And you use these cards, like I said, to open different various elite chests. If you don't have all the cards and someone else does, they can open it for you, and you go in and can grab the loot and whatnot, and it's all pretty chill. But yeah, those towers are found everywhere throughout. Here's one, here's another one, here's one down here. Oh, look, another tower. Oh, look, a tower. Here's another one here. You will often have quests send you back there for faction rep and whatnot. But yeah, another thing you might find yourself doing often is, and if you're an arachnophobe, I'm very sorry, unfortunately jumping into these spider caves located throughout the map. These spider caves can be found throughout Nighthaven in all various different sizes and forms and whatnot. Here's another one for you. There's an elite one down here. Camera get in the way. There you go. And basically, we're going to go in there. There's going to be spiders. Oh, yeah, you can pick up a torch, and you can use the torch to be thrown against these webs to burn them down so you can get in there. And there are spiders. And sometimes the webbing on the ground makes you walk slow. These spider caves have little loot things in them. They also have wolves for some reason. Not really sure. The sticky stockpiles are very quick to go through. So it's nice. You can hop in, get some quick loot, kill some spiders. You know, faction quests will be here as well. If you are an arachnophobe, I don't know if there's an arachnophobia mode in this game, so if there's not, I'm very sorry. These will probably be quite terrifying to you, as they are all over the map, and you have to go into many of them to complete quests and whatnot. Now, there are other interesting locations throughout Nighthaven, such as ancient temples with skeleton enemies. There are like werewolf dens and like a kind of like a, not like a marsh perhaps, it's hard to kind of explain. There are areas with birds, like bird areas, nests, I don't know what you call them, that you can go to and explore and whatnot. But the last interesting place I'm going to talk about is what I call like the underworld, I guess it's called. You can find them throughout Nighthaven labeled as such. It's your source of anima quartz, which is one of the new resources you can only find in Nighthaven that is used to make charms, which is a new thing for gear that we will get to later. But just quickly going over what this is, you find it, you go underground, it instances you in, and you go exploring, and you find some quartz. Oh, you find some enemies. Kill the enemies, you loot some chests, you do some jump puzzles. They're pretty chill. I think my biggest thing with these is I'm not quite sure that as far as rewards go, I can't look at you in the eye and tell you that they're really, really worth it. Oh yeah, and don't mind the gate glitch. That just happens. It looks like it's open. It's not. You have to walk up to it and then it's open for some reason when you're on the outside. Very strange. But yeah, there are a bunch of these. They're all connected by like mine shafts, or I think a lot of them are, that you can use the mine shafts to literally like fast travel around the map from underworld to underworld and whatnot. So yeah, there's quite a few of these around the map. They have zones with elite enemies in them that are very challenging to complete by yourself. Like I mentioned earlier, jump puzzles. Like here, I'll try and show you one of the jump puzzles. There's little bonfires you can set a recall point to. Jump pads. These are also new to Nighthaven. And I have opinions and thoughts on them as well. But you go on them, they launch you across. It's like a trampoline, okay? Climb up the ladder. You jump from chandelier to chandelier. Collect some anima quartz while you're at it. Ooh, one-shot it. Let's go. And you get the ancient chest at the end for that sweet, sweet loot. So yeah, these underground sections also feature some swimming sections where you actually go underwater and have to avoid lasers. They also have these sections, I don't know how else to describe, but like the camera zooms in, your character moves really slowly, and the enemies are all kind of blurred out and you can't see their health bars. If you're into adventuring and like general ambiance, these underworld places are really, really cool. Some of them have a lot of elite chests, so if you're into the elite chest hunting, this is definitely a place to go. If you're a resource person, you like to, get resources and sell them in the market and whatnot, anima quartz are going for quite a bit of gold right now. So you can also choose to do this. This is another activity you can do while in Nighthaven. I think it would be remiss to talk about the overall world map of Nighthaven and not mention the fact that there's also a completely new PvE game mode called Catacombs that everyone is very excited about. Now, I could queue into one right now, find a group probably in 30 seconds and show you me going around them, but I'd rather let you experience it for yourself if you actually want to do it, and I'll just quickly kind of go over what Catacombs is all about. There are tons of videos online if you want to see people going through the catacombs and whatnot, so feel free to watch one of those videos or come watch me live, twitch.tv/HotDogBagLady, and you can watch me do catacombs all the time. So in the catacombs, it is described as delve into an ever-changing labyrinth of the underworld to scavenge for long-abandoned treasures, harness immense power through aspects and ascendancies. Be wary, all paths are hidden. Resurrection is finite, and your time is limited. Every wound erodes your body. Every boss you slay feeds into the hordes ahead. So basically, it is a randomly generated dungeon. And there are up to 6 bosses that you and 2 other brave adventurers in your party will face. When you kill a boss, everything in the dungeon scales up in power, okay? And by the time you kill a couple bosses, even basic enemies kind of hit like trains, all right? They're really fun. They're really cool. They were really buggy, but they actually are working really, really well right now. So Catacombs is a big thing that a lot of people do. You get these mythic crowns and mythic sterlings that you exchange with a vendor for loot boxes that are biased upon the loot you're wearing, and you are rolling for new and better loot, including loot with set bonuses, which I will get into later. But Catacombs is a fun new PvE mode brought with the Nighthaven expansion for you to do. Aside from that, the biggest new addition I would say is going to be the, the raid, the Isle of Night raid. I know my camera is kind of in the way, but the Isle of Night raid, obviously. Lots of loot to be found in there. 3 very difficult bosses, a puzzle or 2. It's a very cool raid. I have got to experience it. I have done polls on the first and second boss with various groups. I have not beaten it, unfortunately. It is very challenging, but also it's challenging just to get 10 people together who all are on the same page of how hard and how long you want to go for banging your head against a wall until you can kill the boss. So yeah, that's another cool thing that this expansion brought. Of course, you also have, PvP modes such as Outpost Rush, Capture the Flag, 3v3 arenas. You have your soul trials you'll do every day to a chance to get loot and whatnot. Of course, you always have mutated expeditions. M3's now dropping really, really cool gear that you can do a lot with. So yeah, lots of fun things to do in this new expansion, and that's not mentioning the season pass, which if you are a person who is really into skins, this is the season pass for you. That's basically the entirety of the season pass's skins. For the rest of us who wanted other things in the season pass, it's a little disappointing. But if you're all about the transmog, there's a lot to find here. Lots of different skins in the season pass. All right, let's talk about gear. So probably the biggest change that returning players or players who have not stopped playing since last expansion are experiencing in this expansion is the way loot works and how gear works. It used to be you get a piece of gear, and it has, if it's legendary, it has that gem slot you can slot rune glass or a gem into and then it comes with these perks, and the perks are random, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not so good, sometimes you have a healthy mix. Well, for this expansion, they decided, let's give you some perks that are baked into the weapon that you can't, or a piece of armor that you can't do anything about, and then some slots like gem slots that you can insert whatever different kind of charm you want into it to level it up in your own way. For example, here's a blunderbuss, all right? The bottom 2 things, Arcane Attunement 2 and Shock Attunement 2, those are baked into the weapon. It will always have that, all right? Right above those is my Energize Opportunist. That's a gem slot where I chose to put rune glass and a gem into it of my choosing. The 2 slots above that One is a skill slot, and the one at the very top is called an offense slot. The skill slot I chose to put in my blunderbuss is the blunderbuss skill, Leeching Shrapnel Blast, which is stronger on weapons than it would be elsewhere. And then I put Enchanted 2, light and heavy attacks deal plus 2.3% damage, which I still want to change to something else. I don't know how good that is for a blunderbuss, but I just haven't got around to it. This is very much an experimental build. Don't judge me. But yeah, I could put various different offensive charms or skill charms in those two slots and change them out, such as so. I go to Attach Charms. I select the slot I want to change. I don't have any charms on me, so I can't show you, but I do have this. And then you can exchange them with whatever you have in your inventory. Or I'll go to the outfitting station where charms are made to show you the wide variety of options we have to put into our gear. All right, so here's a list of all the perk charms. If your crafting skill is high enough, you don't have to do the high cost ones. You need a minimum of 100 in either jewel crafting, armor crafting, or arcana to make different types of charms. Since my jewel crafting is above 250, or above 205 rather, I can pay much, much less for them. As you can see, this Leeching Shrapnel Blast charm only costs 3, 3, 3, 6, 1, and 6. Whereas if I did the high cost one, it would literally cost double of everything to do. So yeah, getting your crafting up makes a lot of sense if you want to make your own charms. But let's go over here's all the ones you can slide into an offensive slot. Keenly Jagged, Keen, making you have more crit chance. This one makes abilities do more damage. This one makes any arcane damage do more damage. And I mean, there's just a lot of them, guys. And you can slot any of these offensive charms, once you craft them, into any weapons, armors, or jewelry that has an offensive slot, such as this blunderbuss having an offensive charm slot up here. You get most of the resources you need to craft these charms from just doing content, looting chests, doing PvP. A lot of different things give you these resources, like blade splinters, tusks, and alluvium. These are very, very easy to get. In fact, we have almost too many of them, and they kind of starting to weigh a lot. You will need some kind of tier 5 crafting. For offensive charms, you need Spinweave Cloth. For defensive charms, you need Runic Voidstone, and then for the skills, you need Runewood Planks. They always will cost a chromatic seal, which you can get from your faction vendor. A little pricey if you want to make a lot of charms. And then they will need a material that's called like unhollowed flora or fauna. Just flora, maybe. Yeah, I guess it's always flora. Yeah, such as grave dirt, sorrow thorns, wormwoods, golden azasap, or golden apples for the skill perks. But then offensive ones will take different ones like anima quartz that you saw me mining earlier, or rat tails, spider silk, or black feathers, just to name a few. You make these, you put them in your weapons and armor, and you can have a pretty cool customizable loadout where you can get everything exactly how you want it for any specific build. As you can see here, I have Enchanted Ward in a lot of the defensive slots. I have a skill on my chest there. My jewelry has various ones as well. Thrust harnessing, so I do more thrust damage, which the blunderbuss does thrust damage, whatnot. So maybe I would rather have thrust harnessing 2 on this instead of Enchanted 2. So this changes the way we approach gear and what we consider BIS, because we have so many different ways to make a piece of gear affect different builds. In theory, this plate gauntlet you see here, I know it's just a normal plate gauntlet, but with its skill slot and gem slot, I can use this potentially for multiple different builds, because I can just change the skill slot to a different weapon skill, or I can change the gem slot to a different gem, or a different rune glass that works with something else. So you don't always have to have a million types. You can just keep changing those out if you want. However, I don't know if that's going to be the case, because like I said, once you pay 2,000 gold minimum to make a charm for thrust damage, and you put it in your piece of jewelry, in order to change this thrust damage to something else, you pay another 2,000 gold, put that one in, and the thrust harnessing gets destroyed. Probably not going to change these out all the time, but as they buff and nerf different charms, you probably will end up doing that. You get a piece of gear that rolled the slots on it that you want. For example, I'm fine, with Empowering Breaker. Life Stealer's Draught's really, really good, I believe. But the shock conditioning is very conditional. So this is not maybe a piece of gear that I would invest very heavily into at all. I'd rather find something that, has all the perks I want on it and make it for a specific gear set and then not touch it so I don't have to, keep paying a lot of money for different charms. We're already burning money on rune glass and gems being destroyed every time we change them out for different PvE content. We don't want to do it with charms too. But we have the option to, and we have the option to make our build very, very unique to us, which is cool. M3, the third level of and the highest level of mutations we can get our dungeons to, will drop gear that allegedly has a chance to have 4 of these slots and only 1 baked in perk, if you will. So you have a lot of customization over that gear. Having 1 piece of gear with that much customization could do a lot for you and allow you to stack a lot of different types of things, such as crit chance along with crit damage, along with something that gives you fortify whenever you hit a crit on 1 piece of gear, for example. So pretty cool. This does lead to some confusion about what's actually good right now, especially because, not this artifact in particular, but old gear in general is kind of really strong right now, and people are a little confused. There was also this bug where, some old gear had, an enchanted perk on it, and you could also stack that with enchanted ward on it. It was getting a little confusing. I think the devs said that wasn't intentional and they're getting rid of that. You could also have some of the old weapon perks stack on top of new weapon perks from charm slots. And basically, for example, here we go. So you can see there's a charm slot for Leeching Flurry on this, just right above my head. Heal for 40% of the damage dealt by Flurry. Gain 30% absorption for 4 seconds on Flurry use. And if you have an old piece of gear that has it this same Leeching Flurry, but it's Leeching Flurry 1, on a chest piece, they stack. And they shouldn't have been doing that. As you can see on Leeching Flurry, it says perk max stacks 1. So I can't put that skill in another skill set and stack Leeching Flurry until Flurry is making me steal millions of health and lifesteal or whatever and gaining a lot of absorption while Flurry's happening or whatever. But you can do it with old perks. So it is my belief they're going to be nerfing old armors and weapons or buffing new stuff or a mix of the two, because as of right now, some of the best builds you can do involve using a lot of old gear, which I don't think the devs intended for us to be using old gear as much as we are. The last thing we need to do when we're talking about gear here is talk about our new Umbral system, Umbral Crystals. You are capped at receiving 4,000 Umbral Crystals in a week, and you can get these from a million different things. Mutations, raids, catacombs, elite chests, OPR, capture the flag, 3v3 arenas, PvP reward track, yada, yada, yada. If you do the entire chest run around the world, opening every elite chest, you will fill this up in, by the time you finish, basically. Elite chests give about 15 Umbral Crystals per elite chest, and as you know in New World, there are a lot of elite chests you can open. You're taking these Umbral Crystals and you're using them to upgrade gear up to 800 gear score. Any piece of gear that is 700 gear score or higher can be upgraded. So say my heavy headwear, I click on it, and from anywhere, you don't need to be in a station to do this, which is really nice. You click upgrade. You can then see where it starts from, 760, and how it will change to set to, all the way to 800. For example, my Enchanted Ward 2 currently does 1.8% reduced damage taken. At 800, that raises up to 2%. Woo. And everything else alongside of it raises. And you can see the cost of it, how it goes from 760 all the way if I wanted to get to 800. Getting it from 760 to 780 will only cost me 100, right? 20 gear score levels, 100 costs, no big deal. However, the next 20 is going to cost me 526 to get it from 780 to 800. For a grand total of 626. So getting gear to 800 is actually really expensive and currently probably not worth it since we are capped at only having 4,000. And this gear specifically came from the Catacombs, specifically from the gold crests that you earn from killing bosses, which you get in much, much lower quantity than just trash mobs that you kill. And it will drop at 760 guaranteed. Most gear that you're going to be receiving throughout Nighthaven is anywhere from 700 to 750 at the highest. Usually 730 is what a lot of my gear falls at when I'm, farming mobs in the open world for gear. 730. As you can see, there's a lot of 730, but you can get up to 750. And the normal Catacombs cash crates will drop at 750, which is pretty cool as well. It's a good way to gear yourself if you get some lucky rolls after completing quite a few Catacombs. I'll go ahead and show you the Catacomb shop right now. I think that would probably be a good idea. So it's a little busy and crazy here at the Abbey, I believe it's, or the Hamlet. Is it Abbey or Hamlet? It's both. Never mind. It's just Abbey Town. What's the Hamlet? I thought there was a Hamlet. Anyways, this is the main city in Nighthaven, and it gets pretty rowdy here in the bar. But behind all the rowdiness, you can find Rickar, and he is the Catacombs Explorer. You talk to him, and he's going to give you options to roll your crests, whether the silver ones or the gold ones. All these different chests will roll loot biasing on what you're currently wearing. So for example, I have a blunderbuss on me, so if I go to range weapons cache, I can acquire one bow, musket, or blunderbuss at 750 gear score. Of course, since I have a blunderbuss, this is going to give me a blunderbuss. From killing bosses, the much harder to claim resource, the gold ones will give me basically the same thing at 760, except they come from a set. Either the overcharge set or the elementally charged set. And I have some gear on from both sets, so I'll show you kind of what they look like and a little bit how they roll. It was getting pretty loud in there, so I had to, step away for a moment, but let's go ahead and show you some of the gear from the sets. So on my head, I have something from the overcharged set. Now, what that means is if I have enough overcharged set pieces equipped, I get a gear set perk, and these are brand new to New World in Nighthaven. If I have 3 pieces, so hitting an enemy within 5 meters or killing an enemy grants an overcharged stack. 5-second cooldown. Each stack increases your base damage by 5% and affliction resistance by 10%. You also are inflicted with a 4% rend per stack, meaning you'll take more damage. Getting hit removes all stacks. So this is basically you do over 15 seconds, you hit a boss 3 times within 5 meters, you get 3 stacks. You're doing 15% increased damage and 30% increase affliction resistance, but you also have a 12% rend, so when you get hit, it's probably going to hurt. If I had 2 more pieces of gear of this set on, my max overcharge stacks are increased to 5. Overcharge stacks now also increase stamina regen rate by 5%. Pretty cool, right? That's from the overcharged set. Now, my blunderbuss is from the elementally charged set. So I only have 1 of these, so I don't get the perk bonus. However, I'll read you what they do if I had another one. Magical weapon abilities do 7% less base damage, but they store a charge of that weapon's element for 20 seconds, activating an ability of a non-magical weapon, such as the blunderbuss, will consume the charge and add 10% weapon damage as that element to attack for 10 seconds. It's on a 3-second cooldown. And then when you have 4 pieces, you can now store up to 2 charges of each element, while at 2 charges, gain 10% resistance to damage of that element. All right, so these are some of the set bonuses you can get just straight up from the Catacomb shop by rolling the gold chests. I have 3 pieces of the overcharge set on, as I have pointed out, these 3. But I only have 1 of the elementally charged set. I'm trying to roll for, I think, a good trinket, and I just haven't gotten lucky yet, but that's the way it is, right? Last, we're going to talk about infixes, okay? So an infix is something that is not part of a set bonus, but can be found on very, very special weapons that you get through specific ECRs. And it comes with just a perk at the top of the weapon that's unique to that weapon. So, for example, this blunderbuss that I got an infix on, Mo Mortar, Mo Boom. Mortar charges now only fires 1 canister. It fires immediately and will bounce before exploding if it does not hit an enemy. When this canister explodes, it deals 130% weapon damage in a 5-meter area. Okay? And there's lots of different weapons that come with lots of different infixes, such as Greatsword. Alternating enchantment. Hitting with a basic attack will increase the base damage of the next ability hit within 5 seconds by 10%. And hitting with an ability will increase the base damage of the next basic attack within 5 seconds by 10%. All right? So you can find these infixed weapons throughout the world in ECRs and then put them as a part of your gear set if you think whatever you got really, works with you. Between infixes, gear sets, various slots that you can put whatever you kind of want in them, and old gear being strong, and artifacts, gearing up in New World has become extremely complicated. And this is by far like the biggest change that us the players who have been playing since the beginning are really struggling with, is to figure out what's good, what works, what's worth investing time and money and resources into. And it's been complicated. It's been a fun challenge for us, but we're a little overwhelmed. Like, let's take a look at some of my storages with all the weapons and all of the armor that I've been dropping. I think I have some more somewhere else. Yeah, my shields are all here. Oh yeah, my jewelry. All this. What should I keep? What should I get rid of? I have no clue. There's so much of it. Another negative of this new season has been gear fatigue. We have just been looking over piles and piles and piles of gear with no idea what's good. And so it's like we're just kind of hoarding stuff, just waiting for someone to say, hey, that perk's really good. Because we don't want to get rid of something that has it on it and whatnot. And there have been bugs that they're working on, such as, like I mentioned earlier, the old perks from old equipment mixing with the new perks from new equipment. There was also an attunement bug. I don't even think I have that blunderbuss on me right now. As you can see, this blunderbuss has 2 attunements on it. You can get weapons with 3 different attunements on it, and the amount of damage it was putting out is just insane, so they're nerfing that, for example. All of this to say, it's been very exciting, but there's so much to gear now, and we are just kind of a little overwhelmed with the amount of options we've been given. So, yeah, it's a lot. So, now that you have a good idea of the things to do in Nighthaven, what they added, and how gear is working out right now, I'm going to kind of give some of my basic thoughts about it. This might be a little rambly and a little all over the place. I tried to kind of get my thoughts together, and they were all really jumbled up anyways. But I do want to say, as an overall whole, once again, thumbs up. I'm really enjoying the new content. I'm really enjoying exploring Nighthaven. I'm really enjoying the secrets I'm discovering. Learn about the Potion of Fool site and go to some bird areas and profit. You'll thank me later once you're done dealing with those birds. They're so annoying. But as much fun as I'm having, there are some pain points I do want to point out. The first 2 weeks of this expansion, a buggy mess. I would say if I could look at the New World devs in the eyes and say something it's that for next expansion, it's got to be cleaner than this. It's got to be cleaner. And I know it's got to be hard. This is a huge zone, lots of things to do, lots of new gear, entire new game mode, new raid. I mean, there's so much that they're probably juggling right now, running frantically around trying to fix as many things as possible. It's got to be a lot, and I applaud them. They are trying their best. They already have fixed a bunch of things, but queue times, console crashes, Catacombs were basically unplayable for the first week of the game being out. They would just soft lock you out of stuff, and they would break and not let you leave, and it was a mess. The raid still has a bunch of bugs, but lots of, like, when the few raid pulls that I've done have been riddled with bugs where after dying to a boss, we run back into the room and the boss will not spawn. We have to all leave the raid, come back in and clear all the trash again just to fight that boss again, just for it to happen again. I mean, it needs to be cleaner. The cleanliness of this release, just the polish was not quite there, which is really unfortunate because the vase, if you will, that they forgot to polish is very, very beautiful. It's very, very cool. Everyone wants to see it, and everyone wants to enjoy the beauty of this vase, and it's just dusty and unpolished, and they're working on it. They are working on it, but that would be the number one thing I would say for next expansion to the New World devs is make it cleaner, because you probably lost a lot of people to the amount of bugs and stuff. And a lot of people have stuck through it despite the bugs, but they're frustrated. Salute to all the console players who are dealing with the constant crashes. It's got to be really, really, really rough. I'm very sorry. Over here on PC, I haven't had much crash issues, but, you know, I still have to deal with queue times if I'm not, in the morning and then on the entire day, which I have been streaming at twitch.tv/HotDogBagLady. If I haven't already mentioned that, come hang out. So that's the first thing I got to say, is that the cleanliness was not there, and it was a very frustrating experience for a lot of people to deal with. The second thing is that gear is so overwhelming right now. As much fun as we're having doing things that get gear, even if it is going to the Tower of the Sun and killing the same 2 mobs a million times, or the Spider Farm, or the Gorilla Farm in the Isle of Zervin. Fun hanging out there, chatting with people, getting gear, looking at gear, getting something that looks really, really good, and you're really excited to put charms and gems in it and everything. That's all cool, but there's a lot of fatigue around the gear right now. Everything is bind on pickup, and crafting stuff is not... It's not bad. I think for jewelry, it's actually still pretty good. I know Duke Sloth made a video about that, talking about how crafting is basically dead, but also it's okay for jewelry. But also you still kind of need it if you want to be able to craft your own charms, so you're not paying auction house prices for them. But yeah, gear is a little much right now. It's a little overwhelming, and it's not like, hey, AGS, give us less gear. We want less options. But the chance for some things to be bind on equip would be nice, because getting a nice piece of gear that you don't need that you could sell would feel really good. Maybe you're trying to do something very, very specific and you haven't found the right perk combination. And right now the devs are like, no, you need to get lucky at a farm. Sit there in the Sun Tower for an hour, fill up your inventory with a bunch of crap, and maybe one of them has the random perk combination that you're looking for. It's like, just make some things bind on equip, maybe from ECR chests they're all bind on pickup, but from mobs they have a chance to be bind on equip. I don't know. It just kind of feels bad right now. If you're not going to let us craft good stuff for armor slots, like, let us trade armor between player to player. I don't know. It is a little pain point right now. So yeah, cleanliness and bugs. We're getting a lot of loot fatigue, crashing queue times. There's some frustrating things. There's also some random new bugs, like you can just fall through floors now that you didn't used to be able to fall through at random places. There was random walls in the middle of the road sometimes. Like I said, most of the bugs from Catacombs have been fixed. PvP still has OPR still has the original map. Delete that map. Oh my gosh, I hate it so much. The new OPR map I forgot to mention that got released with Nighthaven. Really cool, really fun. It's not the best at doing what OPR is supposed to be doing, but I don't think any of the OPR maps really do what OPR is supposed to be doing very well. But fighting in that mid tower section is really, really cool, and I really, really enjoy it. But yeah. So overall, I have a lot of good things to say about this season. I think this is a step in the right direction. Giving players more control over their gear with these slots is great. I think that Catacombs are amazing, and I would like to see more added to them. More boss variety, more enemy combination variety, more room variety. As a first step, this is fantastic to giving us a lot of replayability. More people have probably done Catacombs in the past 2 weeks than they have done mutators in like the past 2 years. It's just fun exploring and not knowing what you're going to get. Some of the open world content is pretty cool. I would say the underworld, you'd need to make it a little bit more worthwhile going down there, in my opinion. For the people who just really like exploring, they're really cool. For the rest of us, it's like, unless we want to farm anima quartz, there are so many easier ways to get ECR chests with infixes, with a chance to get infixes on them. Because if you guys didn't know, apparently Brimstone Sands, all of those ECRs, there are no infixes you'll find in those chests. All of the chests found in Elysian Wilds, no infixes will be found on those chests either. So, yeah. Mutators, actually, M3s in particular, actually giving good gear is really cool. The raid is awesome, guys. I'm going to be trying to run it with a group a lot, as much as possible. Hop in my stream and come watch. I think it looks, visually, it's really cool. Mechanically, it's a lot of fun. The mobs in there are way too powerful for some reason. Yeah, because of the stat squish, which I didn't mention. And that's not such a pain point, the stat squish. However, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about here, let me show you. So these are our attribute points. if I go to respec, it shows as I have 510 total attribute points that I get from my level, and I start with 5 in each, and then I can go up and hit certain nodes in, say, Constitution. Constitution will always give me overall health, and this node gives me that all health consumables are 5% stronger, as well as 10% logging speed when I'm hitting trees. We used to have so many more points here. So many more. And the nodes used to be stronger. The nodes got nerfed, and our points got nerfed. So we came into this season going against higher level enemies that were above our level with fewer attribute points. And we just felt really, really weak because of that. Even though our gear was fine, it's just overall the stat squish made us do a lot less damage. And if we wanted to do more damage, we had to sacrifice Constitution, which meant we were just squishier, so on and so forth. Which I was pointing out here, the final Soul Trial, a lot of people struggled with the Bell Tower of Time. I know people who still haven't beaten it, who are doing plenty of level 70 content because the stat squish is so real that they're so not used to struggling in Soul Trials. It's a wild thing. But anyways, lots of positive things to say. It needed to be more clean. It needed to be more polished. I would like me personally, I don't think anyone else feels this way. I would like a more cohesive. I don't know what the word I'm looking. I want questing and leveling to be more fun, more interactive. Interactive might be the word. It really felt like the questing and leveling in Nighthaven was run here, run there, run here, there, everywhere, pick up one thing, keep running. Did you stop running? You're going too slow. It was really about the story, I'd imagine, and not about the actual things you were doing while leveling. But it was weird because it was like, hey, do a bunch of running around. Now fight this really hard soul trial. And a lot of people struggled with that. Now go back to running around. It was a little weird. I'd have rather had a more interactive classic leveling style for an MMO, but that's what I enjoy. A lot of people do not enjoy that. So New World devs, you don't got to listen to that. Just know that the way the game launched originally in 2021, was it? The leveling that way, the slow grind is like that. That was my style, like, the classic WoW style, if you will. I really enjoyed that. Bring back crafting somehow. I don't know how you guys are going to do it, but bring it back. I would like to craft good gear again. That would be cool. Not just use crafting as a means to an end for charms and stuff. What else? Fishing. There's no fishing hotspots in all of Nighthaven. Why? There's lore books about it. I don't know if there's an in-game reason. Maybe they just forgot. Maybe they were really, really buggy, and so they just took them out. I'm not really sure, but there's no fishing hotspots in Nighthaven, which makes me really sad. There's a lot of iron in Nighthaven. Barely any star metal. Too much iron. There's so much iron in Nighthaven. I don't know why you put so much iron in Nighthaven. Maybe it's to try and get people to level mining and stuff. I don't know. Mining is the one thing that people usually level first over anything else, but yeah, no idea. The new enemy types, the devs hyped up a lot. I don't really see it. They're not. A couple of them are interesting. Some of them were a little less interesting. There's like these bears that do basically the Warhammer move Path of Destiny, and they just keep doing that. That's like the only move they do. They don't do anything else. They just Path of Destiny, Path of Destiny, Path of Destiny. It's like this was supposed to be an exciting new enemy type or whatever. Visually they look cool. I won't lie. The new enemies, but some of them are a little bit more interesting than others. There might be a couple things I'm missing, but I'll probably talk about them on stream or have talked about them on stream. But once again, I want to finish this by saying I am so glad I've heard so much positive talk about this game. It is so exciting to see people want to play this game again. I'm as much as it sucks to sit in queue, I'm happy that many people want to play this game. New World devs, congrats, you did it. People want to play your game. Open up some servers and stop crashing issues so that they can play your game, please. I want to speak positively about this game because I think the negative aura around this game and talking about this game has made it seem a lot worse than it is. I think this game has been good for a while. It's just been missing something. And I think Nighthaven is a step in the right direction of filling those holes, so to speak, to make this game feel more complete, and there's more things to do for the end game. It just needed a little bit more polish than it had. And a lot of people's frustrations would have been a lot less. And it's going to be hard keeping the tone of New World talk to a positive manner, keeping it that way, because there's so many positive things to talk about, but everything is shrouded by this film of a lack of polish, of bugs and whatnot. I don't want to crap on this game. I love this game. I love playing this game. I want to play this game forever. However, let's not lie and tell everyone to jump in at your earliest convenience and just play all the time when they're going to experience queue times and crashing. And if they play during the first week, Catacombs were basically unplayable, and the raid has a bunch of bugs. Just a general lack of polish has been a unfortunate stain on an otherwise beautiful expansion that they've released. Good job, New World devs. Overall, I'm very happy with this expansion, and I think a lot of the players are. One last question before we go. What is this? You can call something the Deadlands all you want. There is one thing to find here. I won't tell you what it is, but it's right there. There are things here as well, obviously, but there's one thing to find here, and then besides this is basically much dead space. I want to say this was going to be a PvP zone, but after the mixed reaction they got from the Cutlass Keys PvP zone, maybe that just didn't happen the way they thought it would. This area is rather empty too, unless you like collecting golden apples. Yeah, this whole top corner of Nighthaven, what was the idea there? What was the plan? Like, look at how much stuff is like down here and the density of stuff, and then you get to the top and it's just like, this is basically empty for the most part, besides apple trees that you get golden apples from. And this is like, there are some resources, but that's about it. It's basically dead besides that. So what is that? Anyways, thanks for sticking with me through this video. I'm going to try and edit it down so it's not too long. I had a lot to talk about, and I hope you guys get the overall idea and impression I'm giving. Fun game. Good job, devs. Love the expansion. Lots to be excited for. Hopefully more bug fixes and crash fixes come out so people can play the game. Hopefully queue times go down because more servers and not because fewer players. Go play New World. It's a lot of fun. You can follow my Twitch, twitch.tv/HotDogBagLady, Instagram and Twitter, both HotDogBagLady. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel and you've made it this far in the video, what the heck are you doing? Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Every ounce of support really helps and is very much appreciated by me. All right, guys, until next time, I'm HotDogBagLady. I will see you in Eternum if you're on US West El Dorado. Otherwise, I won't see you here. You get the idea. Toodaloo.